I'm Soben, the editor of the Khmer Post. I am with Councillor Rodney Elliott today. We are giving him an interview because he just returned from the trip from Cambodia. Councillor Rodney Elliott just went to Cambodia earlier in November 11 for 10 days in 8 different cities. So it was quite an adventurous for him, and today we'll talk. So glad to have him here and talk with us about what did he do and why did he go there and how was it. Councillor Elliott, thank you for talking to me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. It was a wonderful trip. It's great to go, and it's also great to come back.
Does it feel like you just fell off the earth and just
yeah,
come
you
back
know,
to
when you travel to the other side of the earth, literally, there's a little bit of a jet lag when you come back. But it's been about a week, so I think I'm kind of adjusting and a little bit back to normal, if you will.
We were quite surprised. It was kind of an unannounced visit.
Yeah.
That you went this time. Was not like 2 years ago. You scheduled with a lot of many different other delegations from Lowell, went with a big troop to participate part of the UN reunification, and went to the capital city and met many, on both sides, let's just say, political leadership.
Right.
So it was kind of a big headlines. And this time you went, it was an unannounced visit, and was surprised by, we were surprised by, many of us in Lowell were surprised of this trip. Was more of a low key, but you did a lot.
Yeah.
So tell us the purpose. Why did you go this time around? You went alone and quiet.
Yeah, I did go alone, and you're right. 2 years ago when I was the mayor, we organized. I was the first mayor to go over to Cambodia, and I thought it was important to do that, to send a strong message to the Cambodian community here in Lowell, especially as the mayor of the city. And we did some wonderful things. We did some sightseeing when we were over, and it was sort of an official visit as a representative and as the mayor of the city, and again we saw many things, but it was very formal, and it was a lot of meetings. And this time around, I mean, I'm still an elected official, but I went as Rodney Elliott. I went as a private citizen, because I wanted to see more of the country. I wanted to spend more time in the countryside. We were primarily in the city. We were in Siem Reap, and we're also in Phnom Penh for most of those days. So I thought this time around it was important to really see the country and to visit people in the countryside, to see really what Cambodia life is all about, and that's what we did for the better part of 8 days. I mean, it was a 10-day trip, but as you know, it's it's about a 24-25-hour flight over, and then of course on the way back it's the same. So you lose about a day on each end. But the purpose to go this time around, it was unannounced, if you will. I just traveled with one person from Lowell, and it was a humanitarian visit. We visited, as you mentioned, eight different cities. And we were out in the villages and the communes a lot, distributing rice, going to schools, and we were able to distribute school supplies to the schools. I mean, pens, paper, books. We also went. I brought some clothing, new clothing, that we went to another location to give that to the people. So, we visited a lot of poor places in Cambodia. And we did do a lot, you're right. But as I traveled through, I would say half of the country, this time sort of west of Phnom Penh, north and south, we did a lot of good things, but there's so much more that can be done too.
You were in Phnom Penh, you went down southwest to Sihanoukville, and you were up north to Pusat and Battambang and Bantay Minjay and Poipet, the border. They covered a half south up northwest of the country. And this is the area that a lot of poor predominantly poor people in the village in the Mandai Mien Jay, the rural and mountain area. Tell us, what did you see there?
We went south. I mean, if the viewers can sort of think of Cambodia as more of a rectangle, if you will, if you split the country in half, or I should say a square. You split it in half. We did from Phnom Penh up and down, both north and south. And we did go south first to Sihanoukville, and you're right, we went to the very rural areas of the country and tried to help people. That seems to be where people are very poor. As you know, almost half of the country of 15 million people live well below the poverty line, and the average wage below the poverty line is poverty level is $2.93 a week. So the standards clearly need to be improved. Most of the country does not have running water, so we actually went to a small commune and we dedicated a well. That money had been raised to provide a well for a commune of about 20 families. So they were very grateful. The well had already been in, so we made a stop, and it was it was very humbling to see that one well with a pump will serve 20 families, not just 20 people. Potable water for their homes, or water to grow crops, and it was a great experience. So you're right, we went south, and then we kind of made our way north to. Every place we went, we brought, medicine. I say medicine, Tylenol, ibuprofen, cold medicine that, certainly medicine that these people, they don't have money for. There's no health care. There's barely running water in most of the rural area. And the government really needs to step up in those particular areas. Simple things like vaccines to all the people of Cambodia, which is, a nominal cost would save so many lives and improve the quality of lives of so many people.
When I was watching some photo that as your trip was progressed in Cambodia by your travel companion Paul Ban, some of the photos was intriguing. You gather like hundreds of villagers and distribute rice and all the things that you were given school supply. In my mind, I was wondering, who paid for those items? How did you? Was it your own money, or did you raise money?
Yeah, I raised some money. The community raised most of the money over the course of a number of fundraisers here. People were very generous from the Cambodian community. And they donated hundreds and thousands of dollars to, to go and help people in Cambodia. So it was. Again, it was a humbling experience, and just being able to be, I think that place we distributed the rice, forgive me, I can't remember the name. It was about 25 meters from the Thailand border. So,
that would be Poi Pat, maybe?
Right outside of Poi Pat, right. So we most of the people, if not all the people, one of the people that was that supported this mission was his name is Sun Sen, and he was from Site 2, and most, if not all, of these families of all the people you saw in that video were from Site 2 because it's right on the Thai border. So, just being able to give 50 pounds of rice to, I think we distributed 4,000 pounds of rice that particular day.
That's how many family could that be?
Yeah, so I think it was about 130, 140 families that received rice that day, and that'll sustain them for a certain period of time. But I think one of the most important things the government should do is to create infrastructure where the irrigation system in the rural parts of the country can get water, and if the government can accomplish that, then that allows the farmers, the rice farmers, to be able to produce two crops, two rounds of rice because there's water. Then you have the rainy season, but that would double the income, which again, it's nominal, but things like that, simple, inexpensive infrastructure investments can make a big difference, in my opinion. So, but yeah, that was certainly one of the more nice events that we did, if you will, to be able to give all that rice to the people. And the expressions on their face tell it all. Grateful, humble, and anywhere we went, I will say, just an aside, people that didn't have anything, always or barely enough to survive, always welcomed us in and were extremely, extremely hospitable. I have to say that as a memory that I won't forget.
Is it hard now that you return home and see, American lives, we always have more than enough for most part, we, have more than enough on our table, not having to worry about, what we gonna have the next day or the next week. Like, how does it make you feel returning home and after seeing what you saw?
Yeah, this was an experience of a lifetime, I have to tell you, and I think it's important. I've taught my children to value the importance of giving back, and we do have, we've been blessed to have a very good life, but most of us came, my wife and myself, and certainly my family, we didn't come from much, and we learned to appreciate what you have, and and at the same time, I went to a Catholic school when I was young with the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, and those were the lessons that we learned. Always give back. There's always people around the world that have less than we do, and do what you can. So this was sort of an extension, and I'll continue to do that. Help people here in our country as well that need help. So I spent a good portion of my time making sure that you feel good about giving, and I think that's important. This mission was a good example of making sure you can.
You went to Siem Reap 2 years ago. This time, did you visit Angkor Wat?
This time we didn't go to Angkor Wat. No, we didn't do. The only place that I did want to go back to when we spent a short amount of time, when we were in Phnom Penh, we went back to Tuol Sleng. The first time I went, it was very moving. The second time, it's very moving. But for some reason, I wanted to go back because we didn't spend as much time as I wanted there. And
I remember my first trip back to Cambodia in 2014. My visit to Tuol Sleng prison was, I felt that I couldn't breathe. But how do you feel there?
Yeah, even the second time was it's just extraordinarily emotional. Where maybe because being a city councilor here in the city, and even before I was a city council, back in the late 80s and the early 90s, I can remember very vividly people coming from the genocide, coming from the refugee camps, and it was a very, very different culture than we had ever experienced there in the city. Certainly, we have seen waves of immigrants, including my grandparents coming from Canada, from Greece. But this when people came from Cambodia, it was very, very different culture, and just hearing the stories over the last 2 to 3 years of almost everybody in the city, as you well know, who have lost at least one family member, and how is it possible for them to cope and move on and be strong is really amazing. It really is. So going back was, even the second time, it was, you just wonder in this day and age, or even for the last 100 years, how something like this can happen. And whatever we have to do in this world, in this country, to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere else, I think everybody will do it. But there's a lot of challenges in this world, but all we can do as much as we try as an individual. So, but second time going back to that, to that prison was just as emotional as it was the first time. Yeah.
We know that the huge wave of Cambodian immigrants come to Lowell. There's statistic census count in 2010 that found 25,000 living in Massachusetts, primarily in Lowell.
Yeah.
And I think the number, many people argue that undercount, but still it's a significant number. And many of them have been reported have the post-traumatic stress, so that now that for you to go back and see what happened to their family member in that prison, then it makes sense to you that why people are still having post-traumatic stress and kind of having difficulty moving on and living life in a new found home. I mean, this question is like I didn't really plan to ask, but I think now the subject come to this, I'll ask you anyway. Like, so how do you think the healthcare in our city is it adequately met this challenge by the Cambodian Americans?
I think that raises a very good question. I think I don't know how anyone without some counseling or help, how people process what they had gone through. Certainly, during the the Pol Pot regime, and then even thereafter with the Khmer Rouge and the civil war that that continued from '79 to '91. How do you deal? How do you just change your life and lose your family members and lose millions of people in a country, and then go on? I suppose it's just certainly survival, getting to the camps, and then being able to try to make some life thereafter, coming to the United States, learning the language, finding, certainly trying to find your loved ones or find a place to live and call home is traumatic. And, if there's, what can be done in this community, PTSD it's real, and is it adequate? I think we can always do more, knowing, the years of turmoil that people have experienced, and I think, unfortunately, considering what takes place in Cambodia, that's why the anxiety level or the interest in straightening out the government of what's going on and making it more democratic and making it more transparent heightens people's concern that things are still not what they should be in Cambodia. And you see on YouTube and you see on Facebook and you read in the newspapers of how the government conducts itself, and that's certainly nothing that, not even close to the level of how we view democracy here in the city. And people are getting much more involved. There seems to be a better voter system being put in place, being enacted by Parliament. So I think in the next coming elections, there's going to be more interest. And I think there's going to be more scrutiny by the United Nations and countries that saw what took place in 2013 with election results being changed in 24-hour periods. So people are much more involved, they're engaged, and they want change. If you look at the countries surrounding Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, the economy and the level of income in those countries is dramatically different than Cambodia. And those living either in poverty or below the poverty line, it's significant. And whether it's health care, basic infrastructure, running water, education. I think the education system in Cambodia has much to be desired, where children have to drop out of school at 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade to be able to go to find work somewhere, and there's not a lot of work, just to help the family. And I think that is a significant failure of the government. Education is important. It's the most important thing you can do, because if you're not educated, then you can't go out and get a job. So, when you see thousands and thousands of people going over the Thai border every single day just to make minimum and menial wages, I think that's a sign that things have got to change, because everywhere else in Southeast Asia, the economy is doing extraordinarily well. And I think, sort of a little bit of segue, that was what Khmer was talking about. He was talking about what's going on in the government. Where is the wealth in Cambodia going? Because it's not going back to the people, it's not going back into the economy. And the report released by Global Witness is very specific on where that money is going and what has happened to it. And I think it's by no coincidence that, a day or two after Khmer was on Radio Free Asia, that he was assassinated in broad daylight. So,
it happened the day after we left Cambodia. By then we were in Vietnam, and Dr. Khmer was assassinated just right behind us, and we just that was fearsome, that somebody can get executed in the mid-daylight. And this ignite me to ask, you visited his wife and children in Thailand. Is it safe to talk about this now, or is it still?
Well, you know,
should
I
we
think
still?
it's safe. I think she is safe. She's been relocated, you know, and just for the viewing audience, what has taken place is when, you know, the process of arresting or pressing charges started to take effect after the assassination. Dr. Khmer's wife started receiving, you know, death threats, phone calls, and they were frequent, and that's when the community and, you know, and Boathana said that it's time for her to move. So she has been relocated out of the country. She's trying to come to, you know, she's trying to come to a safe place, whether it's, because her life is threatened because of what her husband was exposing or talking about. And, you know, that's just not right that somebody has to go through that. And, again, you know, the process for arresting, apparently arrest has been made, but it's, by many newspaper reports, it's fraudulent. And, you know, that's not a good reflection of the government or the country. So we did visit her. And I do believe, I did post pictures finally, you know, a number of days after leaving Cambodia and making sure that, you know, that she was safe, and there's nothing that will reveal her location by any stretch. She is safe, she's doing well. The community donated a lot of money to keep her and her 5 children safe and alive and eating, but she's in, you know, she's in a very small one-room apartment, but she has great support from the community, and she's being moved sort of on a regular basis, if you will, just to keep safe.
And is she or the community seeking refuge to her to settle the third country? Yeah,
she has applied to a number of countries, the U.S. and some other locations. I don't want to say too many locations, but she, United Nations, there's an NGO, non-governmental organization that is working for her relocation, and applications have been submitted to a number of countries, yes. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be soon, and there are parties working to expedite that.
Well, so you visited inside and out.
Inside and out.
Of Cambodia. Up to all this, you know, you see the challenge are real, the fear are real, and execution happen. Human rights violations are still happening in Cambodia. And, you know, what can you explain to our audience in Lowell, people who may not necessarily understand why what happened in Cambodia is important for the people here? Why is it important to them? Like why they care? Why they care about it?
Yeah, well, I think many people here in Lowell still have family members. Well, they do have family members, or they have relatives, or they have friends, and they see what's taking place. You know, the good news with the internet, and I will say I have found that a lot of people in Cambodia have phones, which I think it's important. I have to say, all things considered, the reception is pretty good. So with this small technological advancement, the word and communication, you know, it can't be censored. First and foremost, and secondly, there's not a lot of radio, there's not a lot of television, there's certainly not a lot of newspapers in the rural areas, but you know, the cell phone and Facebook is a in my opinion, fantastic way to get the message out, particularly at Khmer's funeral, where you could see instantaneously 2+ million people filled the streets of Phnom Penh for his funeral. That is a striking message. And even with elections, making sure people go out to register to vote, which is, you know, one of the most important things, and then vote. You know, you want change for your country? That's sort of the message that I spoke to one group. You want change? You have to get out and you have to vote.
So moving on,
so to answer your question, we went to a lot of different places. We saw a lot of. We were in the car a lot, but that's the way you get to see, you know, a good part of the country.
I guess this comes down to wrapping up our interview. How do you feel or think the Cambodian American people should do or in Lowell to help better advocating for, you know, their cause or
Yeah.
the community
I think,
here and abroad?
Yeah, I think the best thing the community wants to do, they want to help their people, they want to help their friends, they want to help their country. And the best way to do that is, you know, to be united in the city and, you know, come together for a common cause. And the common cause would be to make Cambodia, you know, a better country, make it more prosperous, to make it more transparent, to make it more democratic. And, you know, that's an important message, and that's the message that I certainly have sounded off, that you know, in order to make a better country, you have to have it more transparent, more open, and, you know, that requires the government to disclose everything. So I think there's great opportunity for the elections, both 2017 on the municipal level and then the national elections in 2018, to bring about change in the country. And one way or the other, whoever wins, same thing in this country, remain united for the people, you know, for the people of that country, and certainly people here in the city of Lowell too. Yeah.
That's bring me to the final question. This coming year is the election year for Lowell.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? You mean, am I running again?
Well, I have no doubts you'll be running again.
Yeah, I'm going to run again. I do enjoy it. This will be starting in January, it'll be my 20th year, and I'm not bored with it.
Any big celebration will be coming on the way?
Well, I hope so. I hope I get reelected. I think it's important to continue to work. I work every day. I do like it. I do enjoy it. It's not always easy. There's sometimes some difficult votes and decisions, but to me, as long as you are honest and you tell people how you feel and the reason why you do it without any other motive, then they'll continue to reelect you. And I hope they will, and I ask for the support.
All right.
So,
thank you, Councillor Elliott, for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's
and
been
we're
a
looking
pleasure.
forward to talk to you again.
Great. Thank you so much.